Carla, over to you, please.
Okay, thanks, Russ. Hello, and welcome to the Federal Government Distance Learning Association's webinar series. I'm Carla Lane, FGDLA's Vice President for the Higher Education Sector and the moderator for today's webinar. FGDLA is a nonprofit professional association formed to promote the development and application of distance learning in the federal government. We actively foster collaboration and understanding among those involved in leveraging technology and instructional media in support of the education and training needs of the federal government. FGDLA is a chapter of the United States Distance Learning Association. Our membership is largely derived from individuals employed by these agencies within the federal government. We invite you to join with us in this exciting field. If you'd like to join or look at anything else about FGDLA, our email address or our website is fgdla.us. This is the first in a series of 6 new webinars that will run through June of this year. To give you a taste of what we have planned for the next 6 months, our next webinar on February 24th features instructional design with Dr. Fran Kassinger of the Treasury Department. On March 16th, Mary Kate Doherty, the Executive Institute's Director at the Treasury Department, will present strategies to develop leaders virtually. Helen Chamberlain, who is an expert in Section 508, will focus on accessibility for distance learning, and that's on April 21st. The 5th webinar is on May 26th, features Dr. Jonathan Peters of Sententia. He specializes in developing gaming for training and education. The webinar series concludes on June 23rd with Diamond, a firm that specializes in instructional design and development. All of the sessions are at 2 p.m. Eastern. So we will be sending out their information about that. The topic today is Learning Made Easy with Zoom. We'd like to thank Zoom and Russ Colbert for sponsoring today's seminar and putting it together for all of us. We could not ask for a better sponsor and partner in advancing distance learning. Now I want to turn it over to Russ, the Enterprise Customer Service Manager for Zoom Video Communications. Russ?
Hey, Carla, you make me tired just talking about all those webinars coming up. I think
You're
I might need to
sponsoring
take a
all of
nap already.
Thanks, Russ.
Carla, thank you for having us today. We greatly appreciate it. And folks on the webinar, our lineup of speakers today just couldn't be any more exciting and more fantastic. I'd like to first thank people that are on the webinar like Chris Patek. He and I have instituted distance learning within all of NATO, beginning in Latina Italy, a great project that we worked on together. And Phil and Alex and Jolly for working in the Air Force alongside of me when I was on active duty in the Navy as the video teletraining and conferencing officer for the Navy. And yes, of course, the Navy is better than the Air Force. So we had lots of better operation than the Air Force people. And of course, Mike from the US Army based in Fort Eustis, Virginia, amazing operations. I'd also like to thank our key speaker, our key guest speaker, Kirk and McKie, from the great country of Canada, which is with us today. And he is such an amazing person with great experience. And when I started learning about his accomplishments, I said, oh my gosh, Kirk, will you please come in and be a guest speaker with us today? And he agreed. Now, if you want a real trainer and a real movie star trainer, Elyse has over 20 years experience in public education. Wait till you see her in action. And wait till you learn and build confidence from watching her and learning from her. And then followed by Stephen, which is our government director, our global government director and lead here at Zoom. Amazing, lots of excitement and lots of experience to share with you about federal government approved solutions and customer success stories and anything that you might have top of mind that you can always answer in question and answers. So Carla, having said that, let's get started. Now, what we're going to do is Kurt and myself will kick it off, followed by Elyse, followed by Stephen with question and answers and finalization of any topics with you, Carla, at the end of the session. Now, Kurt and I are going to discuss a number of items which we hope are helpful because he and I both have had the privilege and the honor of establishing distance learning, remote learning, distributed learning, distance education, and for my coworkers, Jolly and Phil, whatever we happen to call it. And for me, my experience a lot, I'll draw from the US Navy and what was important. So Kurt, let me start with question number one, and that is, and I'll answer a few, then I'll turn the floor over to you. What are the most important items to develop a remote learning for a real successful implementation, whether it's a mortared classroom, a physical classroom, or an individual workstation, or a huddle room, or an individual student, or a small group of people? And for me, that is the training of users. And training often gets deleted, omitted, and I found that to be the most important item. And Elyse does this every single day, 4 days a week, over and over again, because it's so important. If you do not build the comfort and confidence within all of your students, your instructors, your trainers, and your teachers, you're just cutting yourself short. Their confidence level in the technology will go in the wrong direction. And you can see that I'm using a virtual background. So over here, my finger disappeared, but in front of the blue sweater and the blue blouse that Zoom is wearing, it creates a nice contrast in using the virtual background. So training and using a checklist, Kurt, I used a training checklist, and I did it live, I did it online, and that started building the confidence within the users. I call that the 3 Ps of education and training. And Carla, you're going to know this, of course, from your textbook. The 3 Ps are planning, preparing, and practicing. So if you do that, your comfort and confidence level just goes up. And this technology that we're using today is learning made easy. It really is, just like the title of this webinar, it's easy. I have got more capabilities at my fingertips than I've ever had in any times throughout the history of collaboration, which takes us back about 35 years. And we won't talk about any ages, but I can tell you that it really does go back about 35 years. Course transitions from traditional ways that we taught were important. Interactivity with students, keeping office hours, incredibly important, making ourselves available to the students when we have questions. Carla is a professor. She keeps open office hours with her students, and they can reach her, they can talk, they can use breakout rooms, they can communicate among themselves. And oh yes, accessibility for all. Very key, very important. And Kurt, we're just about to turn it over to you. But Elyse and I have an ace in our hand, so to speak, and it's called live transcription. This is something, because we're talking about accessibility right now, that we pretty much have not had in the past. We have it today. And let me break these words down. Live transcription is voice to text, simultaneous transcription without a third-party service. It's here with us today. And to activate this, I can simply do this. I clicked one button, and now you can see my transcription. Now, Elyse may go into a little more details on this during her demonstration portion, but it was that quick, that easy, and exceptionally accurate for me to activate voice to text live transcription. I'll disable that now, take that off my screen, and you can see that the live transcription ended. So that was just a little teaser, setting the stage for Elyse. But Kurt, what about you? What about those questions? What are the most important items to implement a remote learning network?
My answer is going to be similar to yours, Russ, but I kind of also not only believe in that we need to get all the users comfortable with the technology. I found for me, when I first started this, I really needed to get super comfortable with the technology. The more comfortable the trainer, teacher, whatever you'd like to call us, are with the technology, the less hesitant people on the other end are going to be to try it and use it. Okay. If we can answer the questions with a sense of confidence and encourage people to use the technology. Not everybody's going to use everything that we supply them with, but it's that buy-in. if you get using it, people will then use it. One of my adages, and I can't speak for everybody, not on this call because it is a webinar, so a lot of you don't have the ability to turn your cameras on. I'm a firm believer in, on any virtual call, Zoom, get those cameras on. It's so much easier as a trainer if I can see your faces, because I know right then and there, do I got buy-in? Are you sitting in front of your desk? We've asked people to sit down in front of a computer. I don't know while I'm training, are you texting a friend, buying something on Amazon? So it can be difficult at times to really engage. So for us, really for me, it was all about finding, in this case, Zoom, something that's easy to use, something that is easy for everybody to use, but then establish that link that everybody needs to use this. This isn't a one-way street. And so often I've seen webinars where people get on it and really they're expected to sit there kind of very quietly on their hands, staring at the screen. I am a firm believer in, I hate PowerPoints. I would like to, if I could, burn every PowerPoint. I found ways myself to get around all of this through the remote learning, to find ways of doing things. When I first started doing this, and I've been doing this a long time, I've been training virtually and I predate Zoom by a lot of years out of necessity. As Russ mentioned, I'm in Canada, big country, a lot of space, not a lot of people. So I've been working at this virtually for a lot of years, and as Russ said, probably the single most important thing is practice, practice, and prepare. Before I do any training, I will literally sit in my office with Zoom open, watching myself on camera, and I practice it a dozen times at least before I actually want to present it.
Kurt, how do you generate interactivity with students? Do you have some kind of trick up your sleeve to get them started, to interact with them?
Some of the things I do, like really, truly, and Zoom's great at that because you can open, the little chat window there. I see everybody's name. I use first names. I call on people directly. If I'm not sure you're paying attention, I call on you directly. I do, and I'm an old school geek, so I've got lots of little tips and tricks and different software and stuff like that. If I don't think people are paying attention to me, I can do things like, just give me a second here, guys. I just want to get everybody's picture. And now everybody smile. So I can do, lots of goofy things like that. I got my little guys here. Some of you might know the term gamification, and really things like that help. People see something like that, it grabs their attention. We as humans follow with our eyes, we track. And if you move on the screen, people want to track, it draws their eyes back to the screen. So yeah, don't be scared to, move. I do a lot of my classes standing up. Now, I'm not going to rock back and forth. I think I find that would be a little bit irritating, but that little bit of movement, I very much talk with my hands. My hands are down below the screen. So that's why I like to stand up, because it generates a sense of, adding that period or, exclamation mark, through a physical gesture. And those are the ways it's harder to keep people interactive virtually than it will ever be. And I've taught in the live classroom. I most recently, was back in school and I got a degree in distance education, and I had to do a practicum for a very small Inuit village way up north, which was K through grade 12. You want to talk about a difficult bunch to keep interested, from kindergarten to grade 12. That was tough.
Sure. Sure. Well, Kurt, one final question to you. What about all those tricks that we used to use in video conferencing of maintaining eye contact and all of those things still important today?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like nothing from me. And we've all probably seen it. We've all been in those webinars where we're, for lack of better words, staring up somebody's nose, or they got a big bright picture window and the shadow only nose. Try to face a window. My personal trick for people with laptops, if you are the presenter, or even if you're not the presenter, raise that laptop up. You want the top of your camera to be basically your brow level. Get it up there. That way you're staring at the camera. And I know it's going to be very weird to look at a camera, but when you look at a camera, what you start to learn very quickly is that it's not a camera so much. I'm looking directly at the camera now. I'm addressing everybody on this call directly. Make eye contact still. And that's something I see a lot of trainers miss that mark. They assume because they're virtual, they don't need to make eye contact. for me, it was a learning curve, but really what it was transitioning everything I did live into a virtual environment. And it's really very simple. Be comfortable with who you are, learn what you can do, get comfortable, and it will come naturally for anybody that stood up in front of a class and done virtual training before.
Amazing, Kurt. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your successes, and thank you for the opportunity to work with you today. Okay, folks. Well, now we come to Elyse. And if you've ever been trained on software, sometimes it can be boring because Carla and I say, oh my gosh, I don't want to learn click, 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 click times a million. So let's watch Elyse in action. Elyse, take it away.
Thank you, Russ. Thanks, everybody, for having me. And I am standing, Kirk, but I am going to share my screen, and it's a PowerPoint, so forgive me. But I wanted to show you all what it's going to look like when you are actually hosting your Zoom meetings. And the easiest way for me to do that is to show you on some slides what the controls are going to look like. So let me pull things around a little bit here. And there we go. I'm going to turn on a tool as well that will help you follow along with me. And I will show you how I did this in just a little bit. Okay, so for my goal really for today is, of course, I don't have time to go over all of the controls with you. I am going to highlight 5 that I think you will find really interesting and useful, and I will demonstrate those for you coming up next. So we'll go over the security panel, the accessibility live transcript that we heard about from Russ a little bit earlier, virtual backgrounds, that one's really popular, and I'll do that part for you live so you can see me change my background, how to turn on the annotation tools when you're sharing your screen, and then finally how to launch a poll to get people engaged and excited about your event or whatever you're hosting at that time. So let's go ahead and take a look at the security panel to get started. This is what it looks like when you are in your Zoom meeting. And keep in mind this fact: when you are the host in a Zoom meeting, you have a lot of control over what people are allowed or not allowed to do when they are joined into that Zoom meeting. And a lot of those controls are right here from that security panel. So I'd say out of everything that I will show you today, this is probably the biggest one that I'd like for everybody to remember how to use. So let's go ahead and take a look at security. When I click there, these options will open on the screen. Let's go over just a few of these. The one at the top, locking the door to the meeting, is exactly like it sounds. Even if somebody has the join information, they will be locked or blocked from joining in. So that might be an option. One that I personally always leave turned on in my Zoom meetings is enabling the waiting room. So imagine this: people, click to join in to the Zoom meeting, and they are stopped in a virtual waiting space, which it gives you a little alert and gives you a moment to make sure that you want to let them come in to that Zoom meeting. And you can decide if and when you are ready for them to be admitted. And then down here toward the middle, this is where you can turn on the ability for people to do things during the meeting, or turn off the ability. So let's take a look. They can share their screen even as a participant. You can have someone else share their screen in the meeting unless you've turned that off. They can type in the chat, rename themselves, unmute, turn on a camera, or not. Again, you can turn any of those off live during the meeting. So imagine this. Let's say you go in and you mute everybody. Maybe it's a part of the meeting where you don't want any sound. You don't want anyone to be disrupted. Mute everybody. Turn off the ability for them to unmute themselves. And now they are stuck on mute, and you have that level of control there. So just an example. One more thing at the bottom, the big red button, suspend all participant activities. It's just like it sounds. It cuts everything, everyone's microphone, everyone's camera, the ability to type in the chat, share screen, everything is stopped. And then as the host, come back in here, click on security again, and you can decide at that time what you want to allow people to do. So if you ever needed to do that, it's one quick, easy click of a button there. And that's security panel. Now, live transcript, we saw just a moment ago when Russ turned this on for us, such an excellent accessibility tool, and it's so easy to use. Now, we've always had the closed captions, and there's, the 3 options that we've always had there listed at the top. But this newer feature that we've rolled out is so exciting because it's literally one click. This is all we have to do today. Enable auto transcription. And at that moment, it's turned on. And that's it. So you have now turned on and you're offering that to your attendees, your participants. At that time, though, everybody can adjust their settings a little bit of how they're using the live transcript, including you whenever you're the host. So let's take a look. You can hide the subtitles or show the subtitles. And then there's also an option that I kind of like. Keep the subtitles over to the side in a transcript, a full transcript box. And then, you can change your subtitle settings if you need to make them a little bit bigger or smaller. Now, the great thing about this is, for me personally, anyway, whenever I'm doing a training or teaching, I feel distracted having the subtitles turned on. So I will click and I'll hide the subtitles from myself, but I'm still offering those, out to my guests, which is really nice. So that's what it looks like to enable that very, very quick and easy there. Possibly the most popular question that I get during live training is, how do I have a virtual background? How do I not disappear in my virtual background? How did you get it to look like that? So let me demonstrate a few options for you, and I'll give you some tips. But the first thing that I really need to tell you is the ability to use the virtual background depends on your computer, your system, not your license. And sometimes that's a little bit confusing at first. So let me show you something else. I'm going to switch what I'm sharing on my screen now to a browser. And if you go into our help center, which is very easy to find, support.zoom.us, you can do a quick search of an article called System Requirements for the Virtual Backgrounds. And this will let you know, based on your system, if you can use the background. So if you're getting a message like not supported, do a little bit of research here and then click here at the top, virtual background, to see a very helpful video tutorial of how to do these. Today, I'll still give you my walkthrough though. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're opening the desktop client settings. And you can open these from a few different places. This is the Zoom app or the software that's downloaded on your computer. And then after you log in and everything, you'll have access to this in the far right corner, the gear icon. These are your settings for when you're in Zoom, how would you like to use Zoom? And that's where we access virtual backgrounds. So let me go back over here, because you could do that from the desktop client, but you can also do that live during your meetings if you needed to switch your background on the spot. I'm going to come down to the bottom, so down here on my toolbar, click next to the video icon, the small up arrow, video settings, and I can choose virtual background or just open video settings. I'm just going to do that one. And then I have opened up the same settings I just showed a moment ago from the desktop client. Now, obviously, this is just an image, but let me show you. I thought this part might be kind of fun. If I share my Zoom windows with you, and I am now showing you my live in-person settings for Zoom. And here we go. I will walk you through how I do the backgrounds. And I've got quite a few uploaded, as you can see. Now, using a virtual background, it's really just an image that you're uploading into the desktop client. You can find images from our website. You can also just search for like royalty-free, high-quality images and download those to your computer. And then your job is to upload those into the client. So come over here, click the plus sign, and it says add image. If your system can support video moving backgrounds, you would be able to add video. So I'll show you, I'll switch it around here in a little bit, but a lot of people ask me this: what's a green screen and do you have one? Yes, I do, and I highly recommend that. Now, a green screen is simply a green cloth. I mean, that's really all it is. And I bought mine online. It sits right here in my home office behind me. But what it does is it makes the image that's projected upon the cloth a lot crisper and cleaner looking so that I'm not disappearing into the virtual background. The other tip I will give you, so definitely this, and then also adjust the lighting. Perhaps add more lighting in your home office if you're still disappearing. That really helped me out because my lighting in here was terrible. So, okay, let's do this. I will show you a demo. I'll just switch it to something else. Now watch this. Down here, I'm going to say, Zoom, I no longer have a green screen. So I'm going to uncheck. And then I'm just going to wave at you really fast. See what happens to my hand. And you can even kind of see that, you know, the outline of my arm. Now watch what happens when I say, Zoom, I've got my green screen behind me, and I will wave at you again. And I'm not disappearing, and it looks, you know, a lot nicer. So those are some of the tips I can give you. Add some backgrounds. Let me go back to the one I was using, this one, and then maybe even play around with some video filters. If you wanted to do that, you can switch up the color of the filter, or maybe have a little bit of fun if you ever wanted to do that. So those are really popular. Let me turn off my sharing my Zoom windows, and I'll pull those back over here. And that's virtual background. Okay, let's move on. Annotations. Right now,
Elyse,
yes.
could you send me some of your backgrounds?
I'd love to.
You know, I think yours are a lot better than mine. I'll be looking for that
Thank
in,
you.
you know, in a chat or an email
Chat
or
me.
something.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I download a bunch of good ones, and then I create a folder called virtual backgrounds, and I keep them all in there. And that way, you know, if I ever needed to find them, so I'll be able to find them for you very easily.
Thank you, Elyse.
You're welcome. Annotations. When you are sharing your screen, you can turn on the annotation tools. And in fact, take a look at that. See that little red thing, that laser that keeps following my mouse? That is an annotation tool that I've been using for you all day today. So let's go ahead and take a look first at what it looks like to share your screen. And think of it more like this. You are letting your guests, your attendees, see your monitor. So you can share anything you want to share. You're just opening it on the monitor and letting them see it. And then once you're in share screen mode, you turn on the annotation tools. You can annotate on anything that you're sharing. I'm going to come down here to my toolbar and click the green button to share screen. And you've got a few options from here. Today, I'm sharing a desktop with you so you can see everything I'm doing here on the monitor. And once I go into share screen mode, my toolbar changes just a little bit. It kind of pops up there to the top. Today, I actually took my toolbar and I moved it over here to my second monitor that I use when I'm training. And that way it's just kind of out of my way. But these are the annotations. You just click right here on the option to annotate. And then you have a new toolbar that pops open. You're quite a few options here. You can type words. You can draw. These can be lines and arrows, shapes. There's a stamp tool, and then this one is the one I have on. The spotlight annotation is the one that follows my mouse around like that. You can change the colors and the fonts, undo, redo, clear it out, or maybe save a picture of it. You know, if it's really good and you want to look at it again later, you can do that. Now, here's the fun thing to remember about annotations. Your participants can annotate too. So you can turn on the ability for them to annotate on the shared content. And now you're collaborating and, you know, doodling on the slide or on the picture, the diagram together, which can be really fun. But let's come over here to the 3 dots, the more drop down. If you're ever in a situation and you kind of don't want them to have the ability to annotate, you can also disable the attendee annotation. You can also hide or show the names of the people that are annotating with you on the shared content. So you still have the control there, even though that option, you know, is available if you'd like to offer it out. So let's see, I thought I would demo this a little bit for you. I will open up my annotation toolbar here. And this is an example of a whiteboard, by the way. You can share a whiteboard. So there's typing. Here are some of the lines and options for, there we go. There's Russ. See, Russ is now annotating with me. I've got a stamp tool. What's another good stamp tool? How about this one? Question. And then the spotlight is the one that I showed a little bit earlier. And then I'll have the ability to come in here and say clear, and I can say clear my drawings, clear all drawings. So I'll just go ahead and clear out those drawings. And that is another, yet another really fun way that you can collaborate a little bit. Oops, I did a a question mark there. Let me clear that out real quick. Okay, back to my spotlight. Last one of the day, polling. Now, when you are in a Zoom meeting, let's say you wanted to send out like a survey question or just something to engage and get everybody interacting a little bit, you would be able to set up polls that you launch during the meeting. And I'll walk you through right now what it looks like from the host's perspective when you're launching that poll for your students or your attendees. Okay, I click and open, and nobody can see what I'm doing right now, just me. I'm going to come up here and I will select the small down arrow where I can choose which poll I'd like to launch. And in my example, you'll see that I had 2 polls set up ahead of time. The maximum is 25. So if you wanted to have, quite a few polls ready to go, you can do that. If you are the host, and by the way, this is only available to host, you would have the ability to click edit right here and go back into the system, add or change a poll on the spot, even in the middle of a meeting, if you ever needed to do that. And then the rest of polling, I mean, it's kind of easy. These are the directions in the bottom. So you just follow along. You'll say launch the poll, and it will tell you they are viewing the questions. You'll see some of their answers start popping in. And then when you're ready, you can end that poll, and you can either share the results with everybody or exit out. I'll go ahead and show you what share looks like. Share results. The attendees are viewing the poll results. They will see the percentages to the right, but they will not see the numbers or the counts to the left. Only you will see those. Stop sharing when you're ready. And if anything went wrong or you just kind of want to redo it, you can relaunch a poll. That'll clear out the old answers and you'll get all new answers. And then the really nice thing about polling is you can run a report, and now you'll have a log of that data. If you wanted to use it, for actually grading or scoring something, you would be able to do that with polling. So that is it for my part. I hope that was fun and interesting, and that is really just a little bit of what you can do in a Zoom meeting. I'd love to invite you all to some of our live training webinars. I'm on the live training team, and we host these every day of the week. They are totally free, and we are really proud to be able to offer our free, always live training to anybody that wants to sign up. You just go to zoom.us/live training. And you can come to any of our events. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
You know what? I needed that. I'm an expert now in Zoom. I can do anything. Oh, let's see. Let's see. Could you repeat? No. I'm just kidding. Anyway, Elyse, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. That was amazing. That builds confidence within the user. And the features and functions, amazing. All at your fingertips. Now, Stephen, how do you apply this to government?
Well, that's a great question, and really, again, I'm happy to be here. I'm really honored to talk to you all. I think what's really exciting, I would almost say intimidating to talk to you all. I'll tell you this: you all live on this undiscovered country, and that was a term that Shakespeare came up with in Hamlet. But anyway. The idea is you all had this secret knowledge that remote learning and remote education was highly effective and a wonderful experience. And now because of COVID, the rest of the world is coming up to speed, kind of where you all have been. I can only imagine how it feels for some of you on the call when you're reading and online or what have you, or seeing on TV, people saying, well, the world is discovering the benefits of remote education and distance learning, and you all are saying, what, we've been preaching this for 10, 20 years. So it's really great to be in front of this body and kind of share some thoughts with you. My own experiences with distance learning started actually way back in high school. I like maybe some of you on the phone. My father's in the State Department, and I lived in Naples, Italy. I attended a DoD administered school, Naples American High School, and I remember my senior year, we had a class on filmmaking and AV editing, and it was amazing because I was the only student in the school taking the class, and it would never have been offered. But the DoD was able to say, you know what, there's people all over our 163 schools all over the world, and some of them here, some of them there, and they were able to form a class. And it was really one of the most remarkable classes I've ever had. It instilled in me the love of marketing, which is ultimately the career direction that I went and took in, and here I stand before you now, leading our marketing efforts in the government space. So for Zoom, so really exciting and something that I was part of so long ago and have continued to be a part of. So it's fantastic to be able to talk to you again. You know, the citizens of this undiscovered country, so to speak. You know, when we talk about the pandemic and Zoom, there's just so much information's out there, and like everything with the pandemic, you know, we just hear some things here and some things there, and it's so hard to keep track of things. It's so hard to keep track of Zoom. If you can imagine, I joined Zoom in June, and about half of the company, like me, joined after the pandemic. So it's incredible the transformation that we've undergone, and just as an organization. So I can only imagine people in the marketplace or people out there hearing things in the news, you know, Zoom this or that, or different allegations and associations. So first of all, I want to let you know, with respect to the federal government, there's two Zooms. There's the Zoom that your agency is probably, hopefully it's instructed you is not the right platform for you, and that would be the Zoom platform for the commercial world that everyone else is using. For the federal world, we have a special US-based, US person only Zoom for Government platform. So it's a completely different and secure operating environment. Again, US persons, US based only. It's FedRAMP certified. It's FIPS compliant. That's the cryptological system that NIST audits. It meets and has been validated against DoD's impact level 2 requirements. We've done the work for impact level 4 and are waiting final sign off there. So we will soon have an even higher level of attestation. That's at the 4 official use only level. So obviously very robust security environment, 300 plus controls. So I'm really humbled to be able to be part of this incredible platform, and it's been able to support incredible use cases every day. Virtually every cabinet level agency uses us, every military command, both houses of Congress, the court system, state and local governments across the country. So really fantastic. And certainly it's just been an amazing journey for me. And I see things at CDC for their emergency physician outreach, 20,000 doctors. At one point it was every day. Now it's just very regularly having these incredible message communication platforms using Zoom. So certainly something that has been humbling. And then, earlier at the beginning of the call, before we started this webinar, we mentioned transcription and sign language, and we lead the way with accessibility features for those communities that benefit from those accessibility activations. So, which for me, as personally, is something that is very impactful and very important. When we think about COVID, we hope that we're sort of past the most of COVID is in the rearview mirror, more so than in the front windshield. And it reminded me of those. I don't know if you remember those in the cars in the 80s and 90s. In front of the passenger window, the driver window, there was a small triangular window you could just kind of open and shut. I don't know if you remember that for your family car when you were growing up, but those windows are no longer in any automobile today. And I don't think any one of us goes into a car and says, you know what, I miss that triangular A window, is what it was called. And none of us do. And I think that when we look back 5-10 years from now at education writ large, and we talk about it, so many things that we assumed made in-person learning better will turn out in retrospect actually to not be true. And that we'll actually be able to say, you know what, I want to be able to study what I want, where I want, under the conditions I want. And that's very important to me. We'll learn to say, you know what, networking in person and virtual are different, but there's different techniques that you can utilize and come to improved outcomes and build real relationships. And so I think that there's so many different situations that we're seeing, and I see them every day. Just to give you a very, very different environment than maybe some of you are used to. Just yesterday, I had a phone call with the Kansas Department of Corrections, and they have a program for the justice-involved population, the residents of the correctional facilities, and they are providing training on dashboards, analytical dashboards, and other really in-demand skills, so that when these folks come out, having served their time, they can, quickly move into, productive jobs. And part of their program for a group of the population is to have essentially an internship within the Bureau of Prisons, and where they're actually, helping with some of the planning and some of the work of the department. And they're able to go in and they put their business clothes on and they smile in front of the camera, and they feel like even though they're within a correctional environment, they feel just as professional as the other folks on their team, and their teammates happen to not be prisoners. So it's an incredible transformative situation. And I take this extreme example, but you can imagine a sailor on one of our ships. We spoke at the beginning of this phone call how the Navy is obviously superior to the Air Force and everything else. So certainly my time in Naples, Italy,
Hip, hip, hooray.
validates some of that. No, I wonderful times as well up in Aviano with some of the Air Force folks and other bases around the world. So I was in Ramstein just before the pandemic. So no offense to anyone in the Air Force, but it's amazing. You can imagine the training activities, and we've come to a worldview through, again, worldview that you all have had, but the majority of civilization now has come to share that maybe people want to study what's right for them and not a cookie cutter program that's right for some. Maybe they want to say, this is something that I want to do, but I want to do it on my time. I can only study in the evenings. I can only study in the mornings. Sunday's good for me, but Tuesday isn't. People now are looking at distance education, synchronous or asynchronous, depending on the situation. And they're saying that this is the better way. Of course, we're never going to say we're human beings. We're social animals, and that social interaction is always going to be important. Being able to shake someone's hand is never going to go away as a wonderful activity in terms of networking and relationship development. But where that's not optimal, whether it's not possible, we are able to forge ahead and not reduce our outcomes. So within Zoom, that's what I'm particularly excited about. And then you asked me, well, what are we working on next? What's coming down the road? There's 4 things I think that we want to focus on as a company for you, to give you the product that you need for the important missions that you have, the didactic missions that you serve. First of all, obviously, security is going to continue to be top, front of mind. We see every day, the latest hacks, SolarWinds, which obviously, fortunately, we had no susceptibility to because of our platform. But everything else, security is going to continue to be absolutely a focus. And in any kind of an educational environment, security is going to be, preeminent, and we certainly want to meet that. There's 3 other areas I would say. How can we as a platform improve networking and team building? And how can we better mimic the natural human interactions? In a webinar like this one, if we were all in a conference room somewhere, maybe before or after, we'd be hanging out in the hallways and chatting. How can we build into our platform some ways to better mimic those human interactive areas. I would say another area is how can we bridge languages? So maybe you could imagine if we were having people from other nations in a forum like this, what can we do so that in real time they're able to have, an audio experience that meets what they're doing. And then even from a transcription perspective, how can we do that and ensure that that's coming in real time? And it's funny, I was on a call yesterday because I also look at global government, and I was on the phone with colleagues in Singapore, in Australia, in Africa, and in England. And we found a time that was probably not optimal for anyone, but it sort of worked. And we all were chatting. And we all spoke English as our mother tongue, but we all spoke it very, very differently. And I would say that the transcription and the audio voice recognition is probably attuned, not maybe even closer to me. I was the only sort of American, but obviously I think California TV English would be the sort of the optimal. But that's obviously not official English by any stretch of the imagination. Only one person came from England who speaks the Queen's English, but everyone else, their native accent of English was very different and no less valid. So how can we make sure the transcription is the same? We just heard from a Canadian, slight accent differences there with English, but when you go to French, Quebec French and Parisian French are very, very different, and they would encounter similar issues there. So when we bridge languages and cultures, we want to make sure we're able with our transcription to make sure that people, regardless of their accent, feel validated.
Hey, Stephen.
And then the other, yeah.
Hey, Stephen, could I just add this? Very thankfully, one of my customers is the United Nations. Specifically, it's UNICEF, which I love so much to serve them. And because it's United Nations, you've got a lot of languages, even more so than NATO, for example. And so the not the live transcription, but the live interpretation is a great feature that can be easily activated so that some people simultaneously can be listening in their mother tongue, like you mentioned, English or Spanish, and others could be listening in German at 80% of the volume of the original language. So that's another feature that I really love, and it works so well for the United Nations.
No, it does, and you can imagine, the United Nations, where the languages are important. But just we had our user conference, Zoomtopia. I had an amazing interview with the CIO for the city of San Jose, and in the city of San Jose, there's 300 languages spoken. So they want to make sure that their community outreach is reaching people and getting input from people in those languages, so that's very important. Folks on the line, it's not just for UNICEF. Of course, it's important that they have that, but there's a million other places where that's just going to be equally important. So certainly a phenomenal point there, absolutely. And that really goes to the last point, is improving confidence and the flow of information. How can we make sure that people are confident in their business interaction, their educational interaction, their mission interaction, whether that's face-to-face, in dialogue, whether it's in chat, whether it's in phone, however they're communicating, we want to make sure that our platform is allowing them to be their best self and convey their best self. So that's kind of the roadmap that we're on. I think I've gone 5 minutes over, but I've just been so excited about the time here and this august body. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address you all today. I think, Russ, you might be on mute.
Oh yeah, the good old mute button, Stephen. Some of those things that get you every time, don't they? That could be a trick also, Stephen. Maybe I wanted to be on mute. Just kidding. Carla, you know what? Thanks to Elyse, and I answered a few of the questions, and it's good to see some of the comments that people put up, Jay, on the Q&A line. And we had some chat between us so that we could coordinate what we were about to say and so forth. So it was easier for us to use this. I don't see any outstanding Q&As, Carla, with the group. some comments. And I'm reading right now. How much we can address the learner. It's about instructional design. Carla, you are maybe one of the best at this. With remote learning and distance education, is instructional design important?
You bet. I mean, it's one of the most important things that we've got to offer. Even today, just putting this 1 hour session together, we probably all spent, maybe 10 hours or so just deciding what should be covered, how we should cover it, who should cover it, and so forth. I mean, that's just a basic idea. We didn't use any learning theories or teacher design theories, but we went through a lot of those things and we applied a lot of them. So instructional design as a profession, as a field, as an art is so important. We have so many people. I mean, every day you pick up the paper and you find remarks about K through 12 and how kids are falling through the cracks and they're not doing well. Part of that is because they don't have the devices, they don't have internet. I mean, here in LA, one of the things they've done is equip buses with internet accessibility, and they go into neighborhoods where they know the kids don't have internet access. The kids have the devices because LA Unified has bought them, but they didn't have the access. So the bus drives around to different neighborhoods. It's a very nice solution to it. Interim solution, of course, almost like a fax machine. A fax was an interim solution. But the instructional design that goes into it, the problems that K through 12 teachers are having is that they understand how to put together a program, a lesson for their face-to-face classes. But when faced with how do I do this on Zoom or some other technology, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to prepare material to put on a learning management system. They don't understand how to sequence material. They don't understand how to engage students for 8 hours a day, which is a stupid thing to do in the first place. I mean, they ought to let kids go and come back and then come back in, go and do something and come back. I mean, it's activity management. That's what you would do in a classroom. So the flipped classroom model is something that has come along that's really beginning to come of age at this point. I have several doctoral students who are working on that, but we've got so many things that we can do. And yes, it has come of age yet again. I've been doing this for 30 years. So my doctorate is in distance education. I've never looked back. It's always been forward. Every day is new. And that's what's exciting about it. So Russ, Elyse, Kirk, Stephen, I want to thank you all so much for being with us today, taking the time to let us know. And everyone who signed up for the session, I appreciate it. I'm glad you did. I hope you learned something. I think I did. I certainly am better. I had absolutely no idea I could put a live video behind my screen. So I'll try that next time instead of my beautiful San Clemente, California background here. Thank you all for being with us today. We'll notify you about the upcoming sessions that we have. We appreciate your input today. Thank you. Concludes the seminar. Good night.